Chapter 49 of Shrimadbhagavatam, King Prachina Barhis. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vijitashva, son of Prithu, ruled the kingdom after his father had gone away to the forest. He appointed his 4 brothers to rule the 4 quarters and himself ruled the entire kingdom. Vijitashva had a wife by name Nahabhashwati, and she bore him a son by name Havirdhana. This son, however, was not like other children. Even when he was a young man, he declared that he had no interest in ruling the kingdom, and he refused to be caught up in the toils of kingship. He went away to the forest in pursuit of salvation. Havirdhana had a wife, Havirdhani, and she bore him 6 sons before he abandoned the kingdom. Barhishat was the eldest of them. He married Shatadruti, the daughter of the Lord of the Seas. She was so beautiful that it is said, when the couple went round him during the wedding ceremony, the god of fire fell in love with her and desired her. 10 sons were born to this couple, and they were famed as the Pracheta's brothers. They grew up to be God-fearing, well-versed in Dharma Shastra, and ever devoted to Narayana. Their father asked them to take upon themselves the task of continuing the line, and as a preparation for it, they entered the sea, and there they performed intense tapas. King Barhishat was a man who believed in the performance of yajnas. He was fascinated by it, and so absorbed was he in it that he was always performing one yajna after another. In course of time, this became with him an obsession. The moment one yaga was completed, he would begin another. At one time, the entire earth was covered by kusha grass, which was used for the yajnas. He got the name Prachina Barhis because of the kusa grass, which was spread on the face of earth, with the tip of each blade pointing towards the east. When his sons were away performing tapas, the father was still engaged in performing yajnas. Sage Narada took pity on him and told himself, "This good king is wasting all his life in pursuit of the karma kanda, which is not helping him to prepare himself for salvation. I will go to him and show him the easier path of bhakti and save him." Narada went to the presence of the king Barhishat. The king honored him as was his due, and having placed him in an elevated seat, the king sat at his feet. Narada inquired about the welfare of the country and then said, "O king, I see that you are engaged in the performance of innumerable yajnas, but you will never realize salvation as a result of this karma kanda. The removal of sorrow and the attainment of happiness are the 2 things man desires in this world. But the wise are of opinion that these karmas, the performing of them, do not grant either of these wishes to the performer. Is there then a third objective which you are pursuing? Tell me what your purpose is in the incessant performance of yajnas." The king said, "My lord, involved as I am in the karma kanda and its performance, I have not been able to think of a third objective. Salvation has not come to my mind till today. People have the goodness to tell me what I should do to attain salvation. I realize that I have been foolish. I have been so absorbed in the karma aspect of yajnas that I have not once thought of the other paths, the yogas they speak about. I have not ever once thought of moksha. Man is caught up in the web made up of affections of different types: love for wife and children, love of the home, love of wealth, love of kingdom. He is foolish and he is ignorant of the ways of reaching the other world. In his involvement with the things of this world, he has not considered that there is another life after this, that there is another world for which one has to prepare oneself. My Lord, all these many years I have been like this, and your words have made me pause for a while and think. Till now, I had no time to think. So busy was I with action. You now tell me that all this will not lead me to the other world. What am I to do? Please teach me the method by which I can get freedom from the bondage of karma. What should I do to shake off this obsession and save myself? Please help me. Narada said, by performing yagnas which are so many that it is easier to count the grains of sand on the shore of the sea. Do you know what you have gained so far? I will show you. The sage led the king to the terrace of the palace. With his yogic power, he summoned the cows which the king had sacrificed since so long. Look, said Narada, look at the thousands and thousands of cows which you have killed thus far in the name of Yagna. They are waiting for you to die so that they can wreak their vengeance on you. They are so angry with you, they are just waiting to gore you with their horns, which are hard and firm as rods of iron. The king looked at them and then at Narada. He spoke not a word. Narada led him back to the interior of the palace and said, I will relate to you the story of Puranjana, which is as old as the hills. Listen to it carefully and you will enjoy it. It is a very beautiful story about a handsome man and a lovely damsel. Sit and listen to me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 50 of Shrimadbhagavatam, the story of Puranjana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There was once a famous king by name Puranjana. He had a friend whose name was Avijñāta. This friend had earned that name because no one knew what he did and how he acted. His presence was unknown to everyone, and unless one thought of him and asked him to be with him, he would not make his appearance. Puranjana and he were very great friends. In fact, they were considered by everyone as the inseparables. They would ever be together, and so it was for a long while. As time went on, Puranjana became restless. Avijñāta was not. Though he was warned by his friend, Puranjana left his home and the company of his friend and went in search of a new home, a new dwelling place. He wanted a city fit enough to be ruled by him, and he searched all the world over for it. For a long time he wandered in search of a city for himself. He traveled far and wide, and yet he could not find what he was looking for. He was very unhappy since many of the places he found and even tried were not good enough for him to stay in. And so he kept on traveling. Once, on the southern slopes of the Himalaya, he found a city. It was a beautiful city. 9 gateways adorned it. There were many turrets and there was a great wall around it. Lovely gardens were to be found everywhere, and all around the city was dug a moat. The houses in the city were well designed. They were built out of gold, silver and iron, and inlaid with precious stones, sapphires, crystal, amethyst, pearls, emeralds and rubies. There was a mansion with 7 floors. The streets were wide and large. There was a marketplace, there were bazaars, and there were gambling places in plenty. Pillars adorned with corals and silks were to be found everywhere. The city was called Bhogavati. Adjoining the city was a heavenly garden. All the trees of heaven were found there. The birds and the bees weed with each other in making sweet music. There was a lake, and across the lake blew a pleasant, cool breeze. The breeze was laden with the perfume of innumerable flowers. The trees on the edge of the lake made the place delightfully shady and inviting. The cuckoos were making sweet music in the mango grove, and the king Puranjana wandered around drinking in the beauty of the place. All on a sudden there came within his sight a beautiful woman. He thought that she was a heavenly damsel. Her form was captivating. Her eyes, her face, her lips, her hips, and her lovely breasts were intoxicatingly lovely. She might have been about 16. Her eyes looked here and there, and her eyelids fluttered like the wings of a butterfly. She looked at him and away from him. The golden earrings which she wore in her small ears seemed to whisper secrets into her ear, making her blush. She was dark and her form was swaying captivatingly as she moved. Puranjana stood rooted to the spot, gazing at her. He came to his senses for a moment and he saw that she was strangely attended. There seemed to be 10 main attendants, and these 10 had each 100 women as companions. An immense cobra with 5 heads was walking ahead of her as though keeping close watch on her, guarding her. Puranjana pulled his eyes away from the others and looked at her once again. The language of her eyes, the sights which made her breasts heave, the way she tried in vain to cover them with the silk which she had draped on her shoulders, the way she stood tracing patterns on the ground with her toenail, all these made him realize that she did not resent his presence, that she was also interested in him. A smile hovered on her lips and he went near her. He had to speak to her or else he would die, so he thought. He asked her, "Tell me who you are. You are so beautiful. Your eyes, timid like those of a deer, are making me mad. They are like the petals of a lotus. Whose daughter are you? Where have you come from? Where do you belong? Are you a woman of the heavens come down to the earth to see its beauty? Are you here, the wife of Dharma? Bhavani, the consort of Mahadeva? Are you Saraswati looking for Brahma? Perhaps you are Lakshmi, the wife of Lord Narayana. Beauty like yours cannot be just earthly. What are you thinking about? In your preoccupation, the lotus which was in your hand has fallen down unnoticed. You are not heavenly, since your feet are touching the ground. You are earthly. You have made me your slave by your beauty and by your captivating ways. Your dark eyes have made me your slave. Will you become mine? I have fallen in love with you. Please make me happy by becoming my wife. Tell me who these attendants are, these 10 men and these hundreds of women. How is it possible for you to have this dreadful snake with you all the time? I am sorely puzzled. Please lift up your eyes and look at me." With a smile and with halting words, she spoke to him. She said, "I do not know who I am, nor do I know who created me. All I know is that I belong to this city and that I live here. I do not know who built this city either. These men, my lord, are my companions, and these women who are their attendants are also my friends. This 5-headed snake guards this city when I am asleep, and it is ever with me. It is my good fortune that you have come to me. You have come in search of pleasure, and I can, with the help of these friends of mine, gratify all your desires. You can be the lord of this city. I will be by your side. You can drink the cup of joy to the fill for 100 years. You are the ideal man to become my husband. I would never have been happy with a man who is a scorner of the pleasures of the senses, who is ever thinking of death which is imminent, who is always thinking of tomorrow and worries about it. Such a man is not dear to me. But you are different. Your thoughts are only of pleasure. You have no thought of tomorrow, nor are you scared at the thought of death. You will be satisfied with the happiness that you can get in the present. There is nothing so wonderful as the love between man and woman. Nothing else can equal that happiness. You desire me, and I am very much in love with you. Come with me to the city called Bhogavati, and we will live happily without a thought for anything else. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 51 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Happy Life of Puranjana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Her name was Puranjani. She and Puranjana lived in that city with 9 gates. He lived happily in the inner apartments of the princess, and he was always with her. Not for a moment would he lose her company. He did all that she did. What she desired was what he wanted. If she wanted to sip wine, his desire was to do the same. He was hungry when she was. When she sang, he became the words. When she wept, he shed tears with her, and her smile was enough to make him smile. The words he spoke were the words she spoke, and the words he heard had to be the ones which reached her ears. What she thought was sweet smelling was the same for him too, and what was ugly in her sight was abhorrent to him. In short, he had no entity except through her. He was so lost in her. Puranjana lost all count of time. Days passed him by, and they seemed like moments to him. Children were born to them, and they were growing up. Still, Puranjani held him in thrall. He did not realize that he was growing old. His age was now 50. His love for his wife became tenfold, and the love he had for his children was also growing. He was lost in the thought of himself, his children, his wife, and their love for each other. He did the conventional things like performing yagas and yajnas, but the love he had for his wife and the pleasures which she was still giving him were always in his mind, and he was happy. He was unconscious of the truth that time was fast slipping by, that his youth had left him long ago. The passage of time was the one thing which he never noticed. Old age, the unwelcome guest to the body of a man in love, came to him and came to stay. Chandavega was the name of a Gandharva chieftain. He had 360 powerful servants. These, in their turn, had the same number of women to attend on them. These men were fair and the women were dark. Chandavega decided to attack the city called Bhogavati. With his 360 henchmen and their women, Chandavega went to the vicinity of the city of Bhogavati. He surrounded it on all sides, and his intention was to destroy it entirely. The city had the snake to guard it. The snake, Prajagara, with the 5 heads. He tried in vain to stop the attacking forces from destroying the city. He fought valiantly with the enemy, which was 720 strong. The fight went on for 100 years, and Prajagara could not withstand the onslaught. Puranjana was sorely distressed at the state of affairs. The attack had begun long ago, ever since he came there to live with the women he loved. But he was so lost in his love for wife and children, he refused to pay attention to the invasion of Chandavega. Now, slowly it was trying to force itself into his thoughts, the fight which was going on. But still he refused to pay any thought to what was happening. Kala, time, had a daughter by name Jara. Unfortunately, she was not attractive and no one wanted her. She travelled far and near in search of a husband. No one welcomed her advances, and people turned their faces away if she appeared in front of them. Once, she came across Narada and fell in love with the young sage. She asked him to take her for wife. Repulsed by him, she became very angry and cursed him to wander the entire universe without a place to call his own. Jara then went on with her search for a husband. She went to Yavanishwara, Death, and asked him to take her. He looked at her with kindness and pity and said, "Listen to me and do not be angry with me for my frankness. You are not attractive, nor are you bent on doing good to anyone. That is the reason why no one is willing to accept you. But I feel sorry for you. I will tell you what you should do. I cannot accept you. As long as you keep on asking people to accept you willingly, they will not do so, and you will only be disappointed again and again. I suggest that you creep on people without their being aware of it. The entire world will then be your slave. Do not be afraid. I will team up with you. This, my brother Prajavara, and I will be with you all the time. From today, you are my sister, and we will travel all over the world, invisible to the eyes of men. And when they are unmindful of us, when they are unheeding, you and Prajavara creep on them. I will do the rest." The three traveled together bent on destruction. Their army was made up of men named Bhaya. During their wandering, they came upon the city Bhogavati, which was guarded by the old snake Prajagara, and they thought the time to be ripe for their onslaught. When he was unaware of it, Jara entered the body of Puranjana. She gained complete control of his body, and he could do nothing about it. And the Yavanas, the assistants of death, attacked the city on all sides. Puranjana was suffering great agony, his body occupied by the invader Jara, and his city invaded by Chandavega. He found that he was being treated with indifference now by everyone. His children did not care for him anymore, and even his beloved wife, Puranjani, frowned when he tried to make love to her. He could not invoke the old passion in her, and he found to his dismay that he was himself too weak to indulge in love as he used to. Puranjana looked all around him. The city was falling to pieces under his eyes, and he was helpless. Prajvara approached him, and in his wake came Bhaya. Puranjana was sorely distressed. Prajagara, the guardian of the city, could not fight any more. Like a snake which tries to escape from the tree which has caught fire, Puranjana wanted to get away from the city Bhogavati. He wept tears of despair. He had no desire to let Prajagara leave the city and go away. And at the same time, he did not know what he had to do. While he was cogitating thus, death came to him and claimed Puranjana. With his death, the city of Bhogavati fell to pieces, and nothing was left of it except the name. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamast. Chapter 52 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Avignata comes back. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Puranjana's lost thoughts were of the woman Puranjani when he died, and so, in his next birth, he was born as a woman. He was born as the daughter of the king of Vidarbha. The princess grew up to be a beautiful woman. Malayadhwaja, the king of Pandya, married this daughter of Vidarbha. The king of Pandya was a great devotee of Narayana. In course of time, 7 sons and a daughter were born to them. When he became old, Malayadhwaja Pandya left the kingdom in the hands of his sons and went to seek peace in solitude. His wife followed him. She abandoned her children and the comforts of the palace and went with him like the moonlight following the moon. Pandya performed tapas, and strictly following the rules set down for Ashtanga Yoga, he gave up his body having realized the Brahman. Vaidharbi, his wife, had been serving him and attending to his wants. Dressed in tree bark, with her form emaciated because of her austerities, her hair all knotted and unkempt because of negligence, She shone with her Lord like a smokeless flame emanating from pure fire. When she found that her Lord was dead, she set up a veil of pain and bathed her husband's body with her tears. She then collected wood and placed his body on it. She had made up her mind to ascend the funeral fire along with him. While she was weeping and moaning and preparing herself for the last journey, there came to her side a Brahmin. The Brahmin was Avijñāta, the companion of Puranjana in the days of the long ago. He stood by her and said, "Consider my words for a moment. Who are you? Whose wife are you? You are now mourning the death of this man who is lying on the funeral fire. Who is he? Try and think what there is between you and him that you should weep for him." Vaidarbhi stopped crying and looked at him in bewilderment. The Brahmin replied, "My friend, do you not recognize me at all? Do you remember that long ago, long before you became involved with the things of the world, you had a friend called Avijñāta?" There seemed to be a spark of recognition in the eyes of Vaidarbhi. The Brahmin went on, "We were ever together. We were inseparable in those days. We were called the Inseparables. You and I were like two swans floating on the surface of the Manasa lake. You were very dear to me and so was I to you. Suddenly you left my company. You were restless for the pleasures of the senses and you went away from me. You came to the city with the 9 gates, Bhogavati. Then you forgot all about me, but I have had your welfare at heart and I have always thought of you. The time is now right for me to do what I have been longing to do since ever so long. I have been waiting to reveal myself to you and to take you back with me. I have come to tell you all about yourself. Forget this man and the misery you are going through because of his death. You do not belong here. Come with me and let us be happy once again." He paused for a moment and said, "You are neither the man who married Puranjani, nor are you the princess Vaidarbhi, who married Malayadhwaja the Pandya. It has all been an illusion created by yourself because of your ignorance of your real nature." Puranjana, who was now Vaidarbhi, looked at the Brahmin with faint traces of recognition and waited for more words from him. Avijñāta said, "I will explain the entire phenomenon to you. You and I are the same. There is not an iota of difference between us. I am the Paramatma and you are the Jivatma. The Manasa lake is the heart where we live together. We have always existed together. You are getting involved in the city Bhogavati, guarded by the serpent with 5 heads and with the women Puranjanis, all because of Maya. Bhogavati is the human body with the 9 openings. Puranjani is the mind which enjoys the pleasures of the senses. When you became involved in them, you forgot your real nature. Avidya enveloped you and your involvement in the meshes of Maya, and the bondage resulting from all these became inevitable. You are really caught up in the web of Maya, which is the resultant of your own desire to get involved with the things of the world. The more you tried, the deeper you became drowned in the ocean called samsara. You are really neither Puranjana, the lord of Puranjani, nor are you the wife of Malayadhwaja. The Atman is without sex and it has no attachment. You are the reflection of me in the mirror. It so happens that the mirror has become clouded as a result of avarana, and so you were under the illusion that you belonged to the body. The body was so easily destroyed by Chandavega, which is another name for time, destroyed by old age, which is Jara, and Prajvara, which is all the diseases put together. You are now rid of all of them. You had forgotten the truth about yourself. Now you are one with me, and let us go back to the lake where we used to float together, the lake Manasa. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.